I buried my son on a Thursday. The sky was bone white, like it couldn't make up its mind whether to rain or to just hang there, mocking me. The wind was cruel and sharp. David hated the cold, and I hated thinking about how his body, my baby, was being lowered into the frozen earth while his wife stood there like a goddamn statue. She didn't cry. Melissa, my daughter-in-law, wore black like she knew what morning was. But I watched her eyes. Not once did they turn red. Not once did she tremble. She clutched their 5-year-old son, Noah, against her side like a prop, and when I tried to hold him after the burial, she pulled him away like I was made of poison. "You should rest," she said to me, her voice flat, her mouth tight. "You're not well." That's what she'd been saying ever since the accident. That I was not well. That I was confused, fragile, getting forgetful. She never said grieving. Never heartbroken. David had been my only child. My reason to wake up every morning after my husband passed 10 years ago. And just like that, he was gone too. A car crash. A drunk driver. The kind of story you hear about on the news. The kind that ruins families you've never met. And now I was one of them. The house felt dead without him. I still cooked for two. I still knocked on his door in the morning. I still caught myself reaching for my phone to call him when the pain in my hip got too bad. He used to drive me to my doctor appointments. He'd bring flowers home for no reason. He loved his mother. And now his wife looked at me like I was in the way. The funeral guests left, one by one. Melissa didn't speak to me that day, not even at the repast. Just nodded when I said goodbye to people. She didn't even sit next to me. I sat alone at the head of the table, my cane leaning against my chair, a bowl of untouched green beans sweating in front of me. The food tasted like cardboard. My chest was full of gravel. That night, Melissa knocked on my bedroom door. She didn't wait for an answer. "We need to talk," she said, already walking in. She sat on the edge of the bed like she lived there. Well, technically she did. After the wedding, David insisted they move in so we could all live together and help raise Noah. I said yes, of course. I had no idea I was inviting a snake into my home. "I spoke to a few people today," she began, smoothing her skirt like she was giving a job interview. "And this might not be the best place for you anymore." I stared at her. "Excuse me, you're in no condition to be living alone." "I'm not alone. You're here." She exhaled loudly, like she had rehearsed this. "David wanted me to take care of Noah. And I need to focus on him right now. I can't look after you too." "You think I need looking after? You almost burned the kitchen down last week." "I was boiling tea." I snapped. She didn't flinch. She had that blank face on. The one she always used when she was hiding something. The one she used when David asked why money was missing from their shared account. The one she used when she insisted on managing all the bills herself. "I've already arranged a room at Westview. It's a good place." My blood ran cold. "A nursing home?" "It's not a nursing home, it's assisted living. You'll have your own space." "No. Absolutely not. It's not up for debate, Margaret." That was the first time she called me by my name instead of Mom. It was like a knife to the gut. 2 weeks later, I was there. Westview smelled like bleach and lost hope. They painted the walls yellow, like that could trick people into feeling warm. They served Jell-O and watery coffee. The staff smiled too much, like they were trying to prove something. Melissa signed the paperwork and left without looking back. I stood in my new room, staring at the suitcase she packed for me. Just 3 outfits. None of my good jewelry, none of my letters from David. Like she meant to erase me. I didn't cry. I couldn't. If I cried, I would break. And I knew I needed to stay sharp. Because something wasn't right. She wanted me gone too fast. Too cleanly. And then one weekend I found out why. It was Noah. My sweet grandson came to visit, alone. He sat on the edge of my bed and held my hand like his father used to. His eyes were wide and sad. "Grandma, Mom had a man come to the house today. He had papers and was taking pictures." "Papers?" "He said he was buying the house." My heart stopped. Melissa was selling my house. Our house. The house David grew up in. The house I worked 2 jobs to keep after my husband died. The one with the rose bushes David planted as a teenager. She was selling it without telling me. Except, she couldn't. Because I had done something long before David died. Something Melissa didn't know about. After she started pushing for joint ownership, something in my gut warned me. So I went to a lawyer, quietly, and I changed the deed. I made Noah the legal heir. Not Melissa. Not her. My hands squeezed Noah's. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I whispered. "She doesn't own the house. You do." When Noah left that day, I sat by the tiny window in my room, watching his little figure disappear into the winter fog, and I made a vow. She wasn't going to win. Melissa thought she was clever. Thought she had tucked me away like some broken piece of china, useless and quiet. But she didn't know what I knew. She didn't know what I had done. And now, every breath I took was no longer for grieving. It was for fighting. I called my lawyer the next day. Not from the nursing home's front desk, of course. I knew they monitored calls. I waited until I could borrow the cell phone of one of the kind nurses, June, who reminded me of my younger sister. I told her it was for my grandson's school project. She smiled and handed it over like it was nothing. But it was everything. "Margaret." Mr. Halpern's voice crackled through the phone. "Are you all right?" "No, I'm not," I said, gripping the phone. "Melissa's trying to sell the house. And she doesn't know about the deed transfer to Noah." There was silence on the other end. "Then, she can't sell it if it's not in her name." "Exactly. But I need to stop her before she tries. I'll send you the updated paperwork. You'll need to notify the title company immediately if she submits anything. And Margaret, you did the right thing. I remember how hesitant you were when you changed the deed. You trusted your gut." "My guts never let me down," I whispered. Life in Westview crawled like a dying animal. Every day was the same. Breakfast at 7. Physical therapy at 9. Bingo at 2. But all I could think about was that woman, walking through my house in her smug heels, touching my curtains, pretending she owned a single brick of it. I hated her. No, hate is too soft. I loathed her with a fury I didn't know a grieving woman could carry. At night, I dreamed of David. He would sit beside my bed in the dream, young and full of life again, just like when he was in college. He wouldn't say anything. He would just look at me, disappointed. I'd wake up with tears drying on my cheeks and scream silently into the pillow. She stole my son from me. Not the car crash. Her. Her poison. Her manipulation. You know what nobody tells you about grief? That it's layered with guilt. That I wondered every day if I had warned David enough. If I had stood between them. If I had told him what I saw in her eyes. The greed, the ice, the emptiness. One Tuesday, Noah came again. He brought me lemon cookies and a USB drive. "I recorded the guy who came to the house last week," he said, pulling his backpack open. He said he was going to make an offer. My boy was so smart. Just like his dad. We plugged the USB into the nursing home's ancient computer in the common room while pretending to play Sudoku. The video was grainy but clear. A slick-haired man in a gray suit walked through my living room with Melissa trailing behind like a damn tour guide. "She's putting it on the market this Friday," Noah said. She even had a for sale sign delivered, but it's still in the garage. I leaned back in my chair, fire boiling in my chest. That house wasn't for sale. She was trying to sell a lie. That night, I wrote a letter. 2 copies. One for the title company. One for Melissa. "Melissa, I know what you're doing. You have no legal right to that house. The deed was transferred last year. You didn't bother to ask why the property tax bill came in Noah's name. You ignored every sign because you were too arrogant. Too sure I was just some old woman in your way. You put me here to silence me. But I'm not silent. I never was. And now you're going to learn what it feels like to be powerless. Margaret." I mailed both letters through June. She didn't ask questions. Just nodded when I slipped her a $5 bill and said it was urgent. Melissa received her letter 2 days later. I know this because she stormed into Westview unannounced, hair disheveled, fury painted across her face like war paint. "You psychotic old witch," she spat, standing in the middle of the dining hall while residents stared. I stood up, slowly. I didn't need to raise my voice. I had the truth. "You didn't even ask how your son's mother was doing," I said. "You just wanted me gone." I was trying to protect my family. From what? The woman who raised the man you married. You're senile. You don't know what you're doing. Oh, but I did, I said, smiling. That deed you tried to fake sell? Belongs to Noah. Has for over a year. She looked like someone slapped her with a shovel. You're bluffing. No, darling. You are. You've always been. She left in a frenzy, screaming something about calling her lawyer. Let her. I had the truth. I had my grandson. I had something she never would. Legacy. She could strip the walls, burn the carpets, and repaint every memory in that house. But she couldn't touch the blood that built it. She couldn't erase me from its bones. And the courts would make sure of it. The battle hadn't ended. No, it had only begun. And I was wide awake. Melissa didn't waste time. 2 days after her outburst at Westview, I received a letter from her attorney, a pitiful, poorly worded attempt to invalidate the deed transfer, claiming I was mentally compromised at the time I signed it, that I was under duress and no longer capable of making legal decisions. I laughed. A deep, bitter laugh that scraped my throat. I hadn't laughed since David died. Leave it to Melissa to mistake grief for weakness. I called Mr. Halpern and read him the letter word for word. They're trying to prove you were incompetent, he said, calm but firm. But we have medical records, 2 witness signatures, and the notary logs. The deed transfer is airtight. They'd have to prove cognitive decline from over a year ago, which simply doesn't exist. She's banking on intimidation. She always was. The next week was hell. Melissa stopped letting Noah visit me. She claimed he was getting too involved and needed space to process. But he found a way. He called me from a classmate's phone, whispering from the back of the school library. She's furious, he said. She's talking about suing you. She even said she should have put you in a real facility. My blood turned to ice. That's not going to happen, honey. She can try, but she won't win. She also told the real estate agent you have dementia. I clenched the phone. I don't have dementia. I know. She's just saying stuff to scare people. But Grandma, his voice trembled. She's not the same anymore. She yells all the time. I think she's losing it. She was unraveling. Good. That's what the truth does to liars. It untangles their carefully woven lies, thread by humiliating thread. I wrote a statement for my lawyer. 3 pages long. Every detail of Melissa's behavior over the past year. Her isolation tactics. Her subtle gaslighting. The way she started locking cabinets. The time she took away my pills and claimed I forgot I already took them. I wrote about how she withheld Noah from me. How she'd whisper to David that I was getting worse while smiling at me across the dinner table. Mr. Halpern called it a damning affidavit. I called it my war cry. Westview wasn't a battlefield, but it became my war room. I studied court procedures. I watched hours of elder law videos on YouTube. I wrote down names of local news outlets in case I had to go public. I made friends with other residents, not just out of survival, but to learn. One woman had fought for guardianship of her sister's kids. Another had sued her landlord for wrongful eviction. They told me their stories like war veterans around a fire. We were old, yes, but we were not finished. I wasn't some forgettable widow in a corner room. I was Margaret N. Caldwell. I raised a son who was a hero to everyone who knew him. I paid off a house on a Walmart cashier's salary. I buried 2 men I loved. I was the storm Melissa never saw coming. Then came the hearing. It wasn't a full trial yet, just an emergency injunction. Melissa had gone ahead and tried to accept an offer on the house. The title company rejected it, citing an ownership discrepancy. That alone should have stopped her, but she pushed forward anyway, filing a claim to contest the deed. I wasn't allowed to attend in person due to health restrictions, but I watched over Zoom in a stiff wooden chair, wearing my Sunday best, my rosary tucked into my pocket. Melissa's attorney was a thin, tired-looking man who seemed more annoyed than invested. He stuttered as he read the motion, claiming I had become increasingly unstable, citing Melissa's observations. Then Mr. Halpern stood up. Calm, methodical, with surgical precision, he dismantled every lie. Medical records, cognitive evaluations, eyewitness testimony from neighbors. Even June, my nurse, had signed a letter confirming I was lucid, articulate, and more mentally present than most of the staff. But the final blow was a statement, recorded on video, by Noah. "My grandmother is the only person who has ever been constant in my life," he said. "She cared for me, protected me, even when my own mother tried to turn me against her. She transferred the house to me not out of confusion, but love, because she knew my father wanted it to stay in the family." I was there. I remember the meeting. I remember her clarity. She's not losing her mind. She's surviving the loss of her son while being betrayed by the woman he married. I cried when I heard it. So did half the courtroom. The judge didn't rule that day. But the tides had turned. Melissa left the courtroom red-faced and silent. Her lawyer wouldn't even look at her. She didn't call me. Didn't scream. Just vanished for a week. When Noah visited me again, he was buzzing. "She's putting the house sale on hold," he said. "She told the agent she has to resolve some family issues." That was her code for "I'm losing." But she wasn't finished. A week later, I received a call from Adult Protective Services. "Ma'am, we received a report of elder neglect and possible mental instability." I almost laughed. "She's trying to have me committed," I said. The agent was kind. Professional. They asked questions. They visited Westview. They spoke to the staff. They read my file. Case closed. No action taken. I was still standing. But I was tired. Fighting takes its toll. Grief eats at the bones. And yet, every time I thought about giving in, every time I stared at my four-pole and wondered if it was all worth it, I pictured David's face. I pictured Noah's voice. I pictured the house on Maple Drive with the cracked porch and the oak tree out front. The wind chimes. The kitchen window. The dent in the hallway wall where David tripped chasing his first dog. That was mine. That was ours. And I wasn't going to die in a bleach-scented box while Melissa signed it away for a profit. She had declared war. She just didn't know I came with an army. The final hearing came on a cold spring morning, almost 6 months to the day since David's funeral. By then, the last of the snow had melted, but not the frost in my chest. It still sat there like stone, grief hardened into something sharp and permanent, something that had become part of me. But this time, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't hiding. I was ready. They let me attend in person. I wore my Sunday blue dress, pressed to perfection. Noah wheeled me into the courtroom himself. Proud, tall, protective. The same boy who once cried when he scraped his knee now stood between me and a world trying to erase everything I had built. Melissa was there, of course. She looked thinner. The kind of thin that comes from stress, not discipline. She still wore her expensive coat, still carried herself like she deserved to be obeyed. But her eyes darted. Her smile was cracked. She was unraveling. Her lawyer tried one last time to argue mental instability. Tried to question my motives. Even tried to accuse Noah of manipulation. But it was already over. Mr. Halpern dropped the final nail. "In addition to all previously submitted evidence," he said, "we have a notarized statement from David Caldwell, written 3 weeks before his death. In it, he expresses concern that his wife had grown controlling, and affirms that he supported transferring ownership of the family home to his son to ensure its preservation." He handed the paper to the judge like it was a sword. And it was. Melissa went pale. The ruling was swift. The court finds no evidence of mental incompetence or coercion. The deed transfer to Noah Caldwell is valid and enforceable. Furthermore, the court finds the attempt to sell the property without legal ownership constituted a breach of ethical duty. Emergency conservatorship is denied. Melissa didn't cry. She didn't say a word. She just stood there, fists clenched at her sides, and for the first time, I think she understood what she'd lost. Not the house. Not even the legal battle. She'd lost the illusion of control. Noah and I returned to Maple Drive 2 weeks later. The for sale sign was gone. Melissa had moved out the day after the ruling. No goodbyes. No apologies. She packed her things and vanished, leaving only a pile of unpaid utility bills and a dented coffee maker. The house was dusty, sure, but not broken. It had survived worse. It had survived time, weather, love, death, and now betrayal. I walked through it slowly, touching the walls like you might touch a long-lost friend. My bedroom still smelled like lavender. The oak tree in the front yard still swayed like it did when David would climb it, fearless. The kitchen still had that sticky floorboard near the sink. Imperfect. Ours. I sat in my old rocking chair by the window and exhaled for the first time in months. I'm home, I whispered. Noah stood by the fireplace, holding a photo of his father. He'd be proud of you, he said. No, I replied. He'd be proud of you. You stood taller than grown men twice your age. You fought for family. You reminded me why I couldn't give up. He came over and held my hand. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Word got around the neighborhood. Neighbors I hadn't seen in years stopped by with casseroles and cards. We heard what she tried to do, one said, shaking her head. Thank God you got your house back. It wasn't just about the house. It was about not disappearing. It was about the dignity they try to strip from older women. About how easy it is to call someone senile when they stop being useful. About how quickly people write off a mother once her child is gone. Melissa thought I was weak because I was quiet. But grief isn't quiet, it's patient. And so was I. That summer, Noah and I planted marigolds. David loved them. We painted the porch swing and replaced the window screens. I taught Noah how to cook my old casserole recipes. On Sundays, we'd sit together and read from his textbooks. He wanted to study law now. He said he wanted to help people like me. I told him, help the ones who have no voice. The ones locked behind polite silence. The ones no one listens to until they scream. He nodded. He understood. As I sit here now, writing this in the same living room where David took his first steps, I feel something I haven't felt in a long, long time. Peace. The kind that comes not from forgetting, but from remembering with power. From knowing I didn't let her win. From knowing that even in my 60s, with bones that ache and memories that sting, I still had a fight in me. And I won. Not because I screamed the loudest, but because I never stopped speaking.